Yes, we're always going to be concerned about the launch angle and the number of homers, but you can't argue with the 289 batting average and the 814 OPS. Players like that don't grow on trees. Whether you're hitting 9 homers or 22 homers, that is still a valuable player to have. And he hits a lot of doubles too.
You are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Rays, your daily podcast covering everything Tampa Bay Rays, from game analysis to player interviews. We've got you covered with all the latest news and insights. My name is Kevin Weiss.
I'm Ulises Sambrano,
bringing you expert analysis and passionate discussions about our beloved Rays.
Whether you're a diehard fan who vividly remembers Longo's Game 162 just like us,
or you remember the early Devil Ray days of Wade Boggs and Carl Crawford,
we are here to break down every play, every trade, and every milestone. In fact, this will be our 7th season covering the Rays daily.
And it is spring training time, so go ahead, grab your favorite Rays gear, settle in, and subscribe to our Locked On Rays YouTube channel and other podcast platforms. You can also find us on X and Instagram at Locked On Rays.
This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money using code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year.
All right, before we get into the main topic of the day, and that is Yandy Díaz perhaps sticking around a little bit longer than anticipated. That is a good thing, I think we can all agree on. Just going back to the Rays Stadium mess, and I have a question to pose. If the Rays were to win a World Series this year, could everything be forgiven with what has happened?
Wow. This is one of the really good organic Kevin Weiss questions on Locked On Rays. Love these. Oh, people are going to have a field day with this on the comments. So start typing away, people. Not on the live chat, on the comments.
On the comments.
Like button. And hit that like button. Come on. Don't be shy. It's free. Would everything be forgiven if the Rays...
Or most everything. Like, would, after the parade and the pomp and circumstance and the celebration, all right, it's been almost a year now. Cooler heads have prevailed. Mm-hmm. We're willing to have a conversation with St. Petersburg and vice versa, or whomever.
I think it would... If there's one thing that would help the fandom get over this grief, it would be the World Series. Yeah. It's not making it to the playoffs. It's not going to winning the ALDS. It's not being on the ALCS. The last one is like close.
Right.
But it's winning the World Series is the only thing that could make Rays fans hear this ownership again. That's the only thing. And even then, there would be some saltiness, of course. You did mention there at the end, would the politicians be willing to listen to them? That part, I don't think so. I think that's a personal relationship that they can separate from on-field success, even if Welch is a Rays fan.
Right, which he is.
I don't think he can overlook that. I mean, he has a personal relationship with Stu, with Matt Silverman, with Brian Auld. He looked in the eyes of these men. He shook his hands, their hands.
Yeah. So much effort was put into that.
Like, imagine how much work,
time and resources and work and back and forth. And you had a press conference. That you're here to stay. And literally months later, pretty much, evidently not.
That happened in July. Happened in July, and the hurricane happened in October. Unreal. Also, I don't know who put this on Twitter the other day. Maybe it was Race the Roof. I don't remember. But they put on Twitter, like, remember how Longo made that little video of him being in the dugout and like, hey, here to stay, and his memories of the Tampa Bay region? Yeah. I think they said something like they got poor Longo here lying for Stu. How dare they? It's true.
Yeah.
Damn. God, you got our guy. You got number 3 to say crap like here to stay, and you're not. At least not in with that deal. I think the World Series would help the grief of the fandom, but not for politicians, not at all.
Yeah, I get that. All right. In other news, this kind of slid under the radar because of everything being talked about with the stadium deal. The Rays have picked up, they've gone ahead early on the docket, picking up Yandy Díaz's 2026 option. And with that, they've added another to keep him here through 2027, with that option being the vesting variety. So all parties agreed to a deal in which the Rays pick up his $12 million option for 2026 in return for adding just another option that covers the 2027 season. And a little caveat here, if Diaz in 2026 makes 500 plate appearances, which he did in each of the past 4 seasons, the option vests for $13 million. If he falls short, it becomes a team option for $10 million with no buyout.
What a deal for the Rays there. My gosh. They just can't stop winning, can they?
Yes.
Well,
they have money to spend, evidently, with them not having to, bring $600-700 million to the table for a new stadium. So they can spend away.
How much? And I don't want to hear nothing. This is completely different. Have you guys heard of Friday afternoon news dump? Because that's a well-known strategy, by the way. Do you think this has anything to do with the stadium? At least like 0.5%?
I think a little bit, yes. Like, we got to put something else out there, and it honestly was kind of totally ignored by everybody. Outside of the Times putting together a brief article, I don't think anybody else has. I mean, if you compare the number of Yandy Díaz option or extension articles to Stu Sternberg does a stupid thing, it is like 90-1, maybe more so.
No, it's I agree. Look, I think finally, like, let's settle down and talk baseball. I think this is a slam dunk, man. Let's talk baseball, and I say slam dunk. Nice. Yeah, I think the way that Yandy can help shape that top of the lineup is fantastic. Has been fantastic. Over the past 6 seasons, he's hit .289 with an .814 OPS. I want that guy on my team. And the last 4 seasons, at least 500 plate appearances. So even though we do have this thing of like, oh, Yandy is frail. Not really, fam. Not really. 500 plate appearances the last 4 years. That guy's durable. In 2020 in 2020 baseball, that's durable. That's a guy who's gonna post as much as you want him to. Maybe like 1 IL stint, basically. That's minimum. And a few rest days, but
I think what helps him too is the fact that he is not playing third base anymore. He's got a little bit of a easier on the body position with first and DH opportunities. And who's to say? I know there's prospects on the way up: Jonathan Aranda, Trey Morgan, Xavier Isaac, all left-handed, by the way. But say one or more of those guys is ready to make a larger impact. Okay, that's fine. I don't see any reason why Diaz eventually can't be a quasi full-time DH. I think that eventually could sort itself out, and he would still be able to hit. I know he's 34 or close to 34. He's a guy to me that he could be 40 and he'll still put up decent numbers. Like, he has that good of an approach, still makes great contact. Yes, we're always going to be concerned about the launch angle and the number of homers, but you can't argue with the 289 batting average and the 814 OPS. Players like that don't grow on trees. Whether you're hitting 9 homers or 22 homers, that is still a valuable player to have. And he hits a lot of doubles too.
It is an incredibly valuable player, especially also with how he gets the OPS. that on base, how he handles the strike zone, that hopefully can have some effect on the guys behind him. Not only with, hey, there's a man on base now, and usually that helps hitters, but also if the guy ahead of you is seeing 5-6 pitches per at bat, guess what? Now you're seeing that pitcher a little bit more if you're on deck, if you're on the dugout, and that helps. That just filters down the lineup. It's a good thing to have. Just like ingredients is a good thing to have, you know? And I have just ingredients right here, people.
Look at that.
The chocolate flavor, okay? You can combine ice, 8 ounces of your milk of choice, and 1 to 2 scoops of protein powder. You blend until it's well combined, and guess what? You got yourself something delicious for only 150 calories and 25 grams of protein. Oh, also, Kev, you know I've been doing my Johnny Bravo impersonation lately with my gym routine. Well, guess what? Maybe I don't have to do Johnny Bravo. I can just do Bryce bleeping Harper, because Just Ingredients has just partnered with the 2-time MVP Harper, who trusts their NSF certified sports line to fuel his training and recovery. And today you can do exactly that. Visit justingredients.us/Bryce-Harper and use code LOCKEDONMLB for 20% off your order. 20% off your order. And for more wellness tips, guess what? Follow at just.ingredients on Instagram.
And we also want to tell you about Monarch Money. Have you ever checked your bank account and wondered, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money, it isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. So go ahead, take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. Yes, like you were saying, Ulises, and just having Yandy Díaz around, I think, as a veteran and a mentor, especially to the Latin ball players, I think is a plus. And he can impart so much wisdom as to, this is what you need to do to be a successful major league hitter. Mm-hmm. That is a guy that you want to learn from and grow from, as opposed to a guy that, you know, might pop out a lot of homers with pure strength, but strikes out 175 times a year.
Right. Like I would rather have a team of, you know, Yandy Díaz than Joey Gallo's. Like, right. You know, it's just a type of baseball that I enjoy more. That's subjective. Everybody likes their own baseball. But I think now, him being almost 34, I think his 34th birthday is in May of this year. Yes. It's a little bit of a different Yandy now. And I think that'll speak more to young guys. An all-star appearance, a batting title, a guy that has signed extensions with the team. I think that speaks louder than, and the results have been there, you know? So yes. I think because of the results have been there, and I don't mean to put this guy down. He's a major leaguer and has been a major leaguer for many, many years, and a successful one at that. Manny Margot, you know, like, yeah. If you're a player and you're listening to Manny Margot, yes, listen to him and learn as much as you can. But I think when it comes from somebody that has a little bit more accolades, you might gravitate towards that more. And so hopefully the young guys can learn a lot from Yandy Díaz. I think he has a lot to give. Hopefully Yandy Díaz is the type of guy that is not shy about sharing his routine and what works for him with the young guys, and that they can listen. So I think he can also bring some accountability too. There were rumblings of he would get on Wander Franco because he was showing up late to the ballpark and speeding to try to get to the ballpark on time. And obviously we saw, you know, he had a good feeling that it was good for him to get on Wander, because those are the types of things you need to get
on a player about. But even with Yandy aging again, I think he's going to be a guy that'll continue to put up numbers. If you just look at this past season, just go to his Savant page and you see a lot of red in good categories, from average exit velocity to hard hit percentage to squared up percentage, chase percentage, whiff percentage, K percentage, all very, very good numbers. But yeah, you made a good point about the fact that he is an all-star, does have a silver slugger, does have a batting title, has gotten MVP votes, has made millions upon millions upon millions of dollars. That's a guy that you want to follow and listen to and learn from as you're trying to make your way through the big leagues. And, you know, it's funny because we've talked about Brandon Lau in this manner, but Yandy Díaz is quietly building up the Rays record books in many a category.
I think he gets a little bit under the radar there with how he plays, right? No homer, so like he might not get the spotlight and the press that he may be deserving, but he has almost as much time as Brandon Lau with the team. Brandon Lau came up in 2018. Yandy's first year was 2019, but off the dome here, okay, I would be willing to say Yandy Díaz has played more games than Brandon Lau.
I would believe that as well. In fact, I would go out on a limb and say
I'm going to do a check real time. Can you check Brandon Lau? I'll check Yandy Díaz.
Here, Brandon Lau with the Rays, pulling it up as we speak. Total games 611.
Yandy Díaz 666. Boom.
Yeah,
we know ball.
But if there's a bullet point in Brandon Lau's favor is that every one of his games has been with the Rays, which I think is pretty cool. He's only played for one team. Fair. Speaking of that, I mean, talk about good deals. The Rays got Yandy Díaz for all they had to give up $5 million and Jake and Colser. I think that's worked out pretty well for the good guys.
Worked out pretty dang good, man. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right. We have more to discuss on this episode, but first we have to tell the audience something very important, and that is Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. So go ahead, join the Trademaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That can all be done at supplyhouse.com. All right, I want to run through Yandy Díaz a little bit. Not only has he been one of the best Rays players offensively, but league-wide, he has also been just that. His WRC plus of 133 since joining the Rays is the 20th highest among qualifying hitters, and his on-base percentage is the 10th highest. So, again, that is something where I think he gets overlooked and underrated in that regard because of the lack of home runs compared to so many other guys.
Yeah. I think right now we are hopefully shifting a little bit away with the bases being bigger and the constant talk of how we want to get out of the three true outcome type of baseball. Yeah. But he has been in that baseball. He's been playing in that syntax, in that context. And so obviously he's not going to get the press clippings and all that, even within the fandom. I think you make a great argument there. I don't want to put these two guys against each other because honestly, I think both should be in the Rays Hall of Fame. But who has more of an edge here for the Rays Hall of Fame? Like I believe both should be in. But like if you need to give like an extra push for like 1A to 1B, I think I'm not ready to make that determination, but I would not think it's a slam dunk for Brandon Lau.
Or maybe they go in at the same time. Same year, you induct them both.
Teammates would be nice.
I would think that if Brandon Lau can make 10 years with the Rays, that puts a nice feather in his cap. And Yandy Díaz, again, if he keeps getting options and keeps getting extensions, he might well be on his way to having 10 years with the Rays if it all works out. But I'll just say this right now, Diaz currently has let me put it like this. So Diaz will be entering a 7th season with the Rays and is among the best offensive players in the franchise's history already. He currently has the highest WRC plus, 7th highest F4, 5th highest average, 2nd highest OBP, and 15th highest slug, 12th most homers, believe it or not, and 7th most hits among players in team history with at least 1,000 plate appearances. I mean, the benefit too is it's not like the Rays have had a ton of great offensive players that have come through the franchise. So if I had to bet on it, I would think eventually both Yandy and Brandon Lau get in. But yes, and I would probably be in support of both of them. But at the end of the day, I think this is a good situation, and and who knows? Tomorrow Yandy Díaz could be traded. Just because there's that option tied in doesn't mean he can't be, ditched at the deadline or something like that.
No, it doesn't mean that. So again, he's starting his 7th season, like you're saying, in 2025. The 2026 was picked up, so that would be his 8th. Then another vesting deal in 27 would be his 9th. So if he were to do all of those 3, pretty close to the decade, which is crazy for a Rays player to do. I think it's just Kiermaier and Longo so far. Maybe Bilal can be that guy too. But with you talk about the trade, I think we should end on that. Is what is the likelihood that he gets traded before 2025 season ends, 2026 season ends, 2027? Where do you see this? Because I'm a proponent of can you just not trade one guy? Can you just keep a guy? If he's being this guy for the last 4, can we just see a guy through a bleeping contract, especially one that's putting the numbers that you don't have to turn a profit on every bleeping player. I know there are other people right now that are going yes, you do. You are in the AL East. You can't compete with the Yankees and the Red Sox if you don't do this. I understand, but not for every player. You can just keep Yandy Díaz, right? Or no?
I would think, wasn't it this past trade deadline that they were fielding offers for Yandy, but they didn't get the number that they were expecting? So you can never say that a player is totally off the table and untradeable unless it's a very, very, very rare case. But I think there's a couple factors. One is the Rays' success on the field. If the Rays continue to win and thrive, I would think you'd want a piece like him around. Then again, if Jonathan Aranda is really doing amazing things or Trey Morgan's really doing amazing things, then, and hey, we got to have a spot for him and they're extremely, extremely cheap, then maybe you can ship off Yandy Díaz. But I think it would be a benefit to have him for a team that has playoff aspirations, probably not in 2025, but 2026. And then 2027, I find it hard to believe that Yandy would still be here by 2027, just with all the prospects and all the guys who can play first base. I mean, that's a long, long time from now, seemingly. But I would think at least this year and then see what happens in 2026. And then from there, reassess.
Yeah, he would be 36, right? So by that time, 2027 comes, he might be a little bit of a different player. But
they might even want to try to trade him sooner just to maximize trade value, as opposed to a guy being on the last leg of his deal and not getting any younger by any means. So maybe this was also a way to up his trade value as well, and he still can get money out of it.
Exactly. So if we were putting green Skittles on this, I think we both fall on he's probably going to get traded. But I think we also fall on the side of it'd be a shame if he's traded.
Right.
Because I'm just thinking, like, look, we prospect hugging, we know how we feel about it. But the thing is, sometimes if you trade prospects when they're high up, you could get something really nice that could give you that extra push for the next year or two. So, not to put names, but some of the top prospects, if they don't have a room for your major league roster because there's a Yandy Díaz, what can you get for them? That's major league baseball talent ready.
Right. You probably wish you would have traded Vidal Brujan before he got called up to the show. So that's a game that you kind of have to figure out and play with. And Yandy Díaz, yes, theoretically he could get more money on the open market, but it makes sense for him too, in the sense that he doesn't have to play that game, because sometimes it seems like with the market nowadays, if you're not an elite ball player, not saying that Yandy's elite, but like one of the big perennial all-star names, like you're kind of fighting for scraps, and you might have to settle for a 1-year deal where it's still $12-13 million that you pretty much have handed to you if you can stay relatively healthy. Like, I think it's comforting for him and his family, and he likes playing for the Rays. That's the other thing, is like he has expressed that I want to be here. I like this organization. I like the coaching staff. I don't really necessarily want to go anywhere else, which is a testament to what Kevin Cash and Neander are putting together. But, yes, he could say, hey, I want to be a free agent, but with the way things are, you just don't know if a great situation is going to come your way, being an aging player that doesn't hit a lot of homers and only plays first base and is probably moving to DH. Like, other teams may not see the value that the Rays see in Yandy Díaz, is what I'm trying to say ultimately.
Exactly. And just to close out here, I understand that people, might be a little bit off put by the idea of having Yandy Díaz just be your eternal DH, because obviously with this lack of pop, you're like, well, you're using the DH for non-pop. What are you doing? I'd like those Rays fans, I want to hear them in the comments. In the last 15 years, name me 3 DHs that have actually fulfilled that role in a successful way.
Like for the Rays?
Yeah. CJ Cron, 30 home runs, and then he was shipped off, by the way. And he played first base a lot. There's just not a lot of DHs in the Rays history that you can just come up, oh, yeah, that guy, 40 home runs. Oh, yeah, that guy, 30 home runs. Like, it doesn't happen. So I wouldn't dislike the idea of having an aging Yandy Díaz with his non-power profile to be in the DH spot, especially because we have talked about the lack of positional players being leaders in that clubhouse.
Right.
Yandy Díaz, Brennan Lau represent that now. They're those guys now. And maybe you want somebody with more like flashiness to be that guy, but 7 years, 8 years with the team, that means something.
Well, wasn't Michael Brantley a DH with Houston, or did he always play in the field?
I think he played in the field for most, and then he got, but
all right.
But again, like I'm strictly just, I'm not even talking week line. Just go to the Rays since 08, and you can't find Luke Scott would be one name, and he wasn't hitting 30 bombs.
Yeah, I think for the Rays, it's always been kind of a rotation to give guys a night off, and off their feet. I've got no issue with it. I mean, again, this is a franchise that has Yandy Díaz bat leadoff. He is not the prototypical leadoff hitter by speed representation.
Also, I know we're running long, so this will be my last comment. 2025, I don't want to hear, we're just going to give this guy a rest because, the turf, how it can get. No turf this year, so you can go. You cannot give me, the turf, you got to rest this guy. Nah, fam, that's a real bleeping grass out there. So don't give me the rest days. If it's just a normal rest, fine, but don't give there's no way that most of these guys can play more than they have in the past because there is no turf. There's not that excuse for 2025.
Yeah. 2026, who knows? at this point. But I would venture to say that Diaz is very, very motivated to get his 500 plate appearances. Even if he has to be in a wheelchair, he will step up to get that done. And I think the Rays will do all they can. I mean, the Rays coaching staff of like, hey, we see you, we hear you, we know you need that 500 plate appearances. We'll make it happen. And if he's batting leadoff, it happens even that much more quicker. Maybe he can do it in 135 games. So that is something to watch out going forward. In the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful day. Stay safe, and we will talk to you later.